What is the true measure of your freedom? Is it your financial independence? Is it your geographic location? No. The ultimate measure of your freedom lies in a single quiet fact. How much does your happiness depend on the fluctuating emotions, opinions, and approval of other people? Most people are not free. They are operating as emotional slaves, constantly seeking validation, approval, or affirmation from external sources, a spouse, a boss, a peer group, or a social media audience. When that approval is granted, they feel a temporary surge of false happiness. When it is withheld, their entire internal world collapses. This state is not merely limiting, it is destructive. Freedom is fundamentally impossible when your emotional state is dictated by forces outside of your control. The ultimate key to self-reliance is to cut this emotional dependence, to become your own ultimate, primary, and unbreakable source of strength. This is the final chapter in true self-mastery. You are listening to a special presentation from the Zenith Voice. Today, we reveal the 7 brutal, hard-fought principles for reclaiming your emotional sovereignty and building a life anchored entirely in self-trust. It's time to snap the chains and become the master of your own fulfillment. The first core principle is the absolute declaration of the sovereignty of self-approval. Emotional dependence is born when you delegate your self-worth to an external committee. You unconsciously decide that your value must be confirmed by grades, titles, praise, or external desire. This creates a state of perpetual neediness. The self-reliant person understands that self-worth is not granted, it is claimed. The hard truth, if you require external permission to feel valuable, you will never feel secure. The disciplined mind operates under a single non-negotiable law. My internal metric of success is the only one that matters. This means consciously designing and adhering to your own internal criteria for success, irrespective of whether the world notices or applauds. External metric: did the presentation receive praise? Internal metric: did I execute the presentation with the level of preparation and focus I promised myself? If you satisfy your internal metric, the external praise is a pleasant bonus, but its absence is irrelevant. If you fail your internal metric, the external praise is a shallow lie. The practice here is simple. Before any high-stakes activity, define the 3 core elements of execution that satisfy your standard. After the activity, ignore the reactions of others for 24 hours and focus only on auditing those 3 internal standards. By making your own judgment the final court of appeal, you immediately strip others of their emotional power over you. This act of self-approval is the first firm border you draw around your emotional territory. Emotional dependence thrives on the blurring of subjective feeling and objective fact. The second core principle is the absolute decoupling of feeling and fact, a cognitive discipline that prevents external criticism or rejection from penetrating your core identity. The emotionally dependent person interprets criticism as, "They said my work is bad, therefore I am a failure." They allow a single temporary subjective opinion to become a permanent objective fact about their identity. The self-reliant person maintains a clear cognitive barrier. The hard truth: your feelings are transient data points. They are not proof of your reality. When faced with rejection, criticism, or abandonment, the disciplined mind employs a clear 2-step filter. Acknowledge the feeling, but isolate it. Recognize the feeling of pain, sadness, or anger without judgment. State it: "I feel rejected." Do not escalate it to, "I am a failure." Audit the fact. Ask, does this external fact fundamentally alter my competence or worth? A rejection from a job application is a fact about that specific application, not a fact about your entire skill set. The critique on your performance is a fact about that output, not your inherent capability. By refusing to let external data define your internal identity, you transform disappointment from a devastating personal attack into a manageable piece of information. The pain is real, but your ability to function, work, and persist remains completely intact. You become resilient because you refuse to let anyone else write your personal identity statement. Emotional dependence is fundamentally driven by a belief in scarcity. The idea that validation, love, or success is a limited resource that must be constantly chased and secured from others. This puts immense, fragile pressure on every relationship and achievement. The hard truth: the minute you signal desperate neediness, you become strategically worthless to others. The self-reliant person understands that the only validation that counts is earned validation, which is generated internally through competence, discipline, and reliable action. This shift is from scarcity mindset, "I need their praise to know I did well," to abundance mindset, "I did the work well, and that feeling of competence is sufficient. If they praise me, that is a reflection of their perspective, not the source of my worth." This is about building a deep, quiet, private track record of doing difficult things well. When you know, through irrefutable evidence, that you possess competence, your need for external confirmation vanishes. You cease to be a chaser of approval and become a magnet for opportunity. The most attractive quality in any person is the calm, undeniable confidence that they are complete unto themselves. Emotional dependence often expresses itself as an addiction to external drama. The constant seeking of conflict, tension, or high-stakes emotional situations that require validation and input from others. The fourth core principle is the strategic withdrawal from drama, a disciplined defense of your mental space. People who are emotionally dependent confuse high emotion with high importance. They spend time negotiating boundaries, arguing over perceived slights, or engaging in cycles of resentment and reconciliation. This chaos requires constant external interaction, thereby reinforcing the dependence. The hard truth: if you respond to every provocation, you teach the world that your attention is cheap and easily bought by chaos.
The self-reliant person is ruthlessly selective about where they deploy their mental energy. They understand that their focus is a finite, high-value resource. This strategy requires 2 steps. Identify the loop. Recognize the specific patterns of behavior, your own or others, that consistently result in low-value, high-emotion situations. Deploy silence and distance. When the pattern begins, you do not argue, explain, or justify. You simply deploy physical distance and conversational silence. If someone attempts to draw you into a cycle of victimhood, you state your position once, clearly, and then refuse to re-engage. By withdrawing your attention, you starve the drama of its necessary fuel. You signal that your peace is non-negotiable and that your time is too valuable for emotional distractions. The ability to calmly walk away from noise is one of the highest expressions of self-possession. Emotional dependence weakens the capacity for independent action. When a problem arises, the first instinct is to immediately seek a savior, an advisor, or a source of consolation. The fifth core principle is the mandatory habit of independent problem-solving, the internal law that you must first attempt to solve the problem alone. This is not about refusing help, it is about conditioning your mind for self-reliance. You teach your brain that its first resource in crisis is its own capacity for logic, analysis, and execution. The hard truth: every problem you solve for yourself is a deposit in your self-trust bank. Every problem outsourced is a withdrawal. The self-reliant person applies the 70% rule. When a problem arises, you must spend enough time to reach a 70% solution before consulting an outside source. You must have exhausted your initial resources, defined the critical ambiguity, and formulated a clear, specific question. The benefit: by reaching 70%, you ensure that when you seek help, you are seeking specific expertise, a resource, not emotional rescue, a crutch. This practice systematically strengthens your intellectual and emotional muscles. You learn that you are capable of navigating uncertainty. This builds a deep, private sense of security that is immune to external turbulence. You become your own first best defense against the world. Emotional dependence is characterized by the need to validate joy and accomplishment through sharing. The win is not real until it has been publicized and acknowledged. The sixth core principle is the intentional cultivation of private joy, the practice of reserving your deepest sources of happiness for yourself alone. This is not about secrecy. It is about protecting the purity of the experience. When you immediately share every moment of happiness or every small victory, you dilute the internal satisfaction by making it conditional on the receiver's reaction. The hard truth: if your joy requires an external audience to be authentic, it is not your joy, it is a performance. The self-reliant person dedicates time daily to unshared fulfillment. The work: spend time on a skill or passion that no one knows about or sees. Let the satisfaction be entirely internal. The win: complete a demanding task and spend 15 minutes in silent contemplation of the victory before telling anyone. Allow the feeling of competence to integrate into your identity without dilution. The pleasure: enjoy a moment of beauty or peace without immediately reaching for your phone to document it. This habit anchors your happiness in experience and execution, not in social confirmation. It creates a reservoir of internal, unshakable contentment that is independent of the social market. You stop seeking the fragile and fleeting validation of others and start accessing the deep, sustainable joy of a life well lived entirely on your own terms. The final sophisticated principle of cutting emotional dependence is the mastery of managing expectations. The understanding that others will always fail to meet your needs and that this failure is normal. Emotional dependence is built on the false promise that others are capable of, or even responsible for, meeting your deep-seated needs for security, validation, or constancy. The hard truth: you will be chronically disappointed by others until you remove your expectation that they should be responsible for your emotional regulation. The self-reliant person operates with radical acceptance of human imperfection and inconsistency. When someone lets you down, you don't descend into a spiral of betrayal. You acknowledge the fact that they acted according to their own limits, and you immediately address the issue using your internal resources. Principle 5. You understand that the only person who will always be there, always follow your rules, and always prioritize your well-being is you. This principle is the final layer of armor. It accepts the reality that people are flawed, busy, and focused on their own lives. By releasing them from the burden of your emotional needs, you achieve two things. You save yourself from predictable pain, and you make your relationships healthier and more authentic because they are based on choice and mutual respect, not desperate need. You have the method. The ultimate key to self-reliance is not physical strength or financial fortune. It is the courage to be emotionally self-sufficient. You must declare the sovereignty of self-approval. Decouple feeling from fact. Reject the scarcity myth of validation. Strategically withdraw from chaos. Commit to independent problem-solving. Cultivate private joy. And finally, accept the natural limitations of others. The freedom you seek is not found in external circumstances. It is found in the disciplined construction of your inner life. Stop handing the key to your happiness to the next person you meet. Reclaim your sovereignty. Your immediate action step is this. Identify the one relationship or external factor, for example, social media likes or a particular person's opinion, that most recently destabilized your mood. For the next 48 hours, commit to the strategic withdrawal from that source. Do not check it, do not engage with it, and do not reference it. Prove to yourself that you can maintain your internal equilibrium without its input. If this message from the Zenith Voice has provided the roadmap to emotional freedom you need, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel to solidify your commitment to self-reliance, and explore the next lesson in our library to continue building your life as your own ultimate source of strength.